Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears and your eyes. Diva Divine Light, live from Brooklyn, New York.
With no delaying for what you saying, yo. Sit it with my 9 and with the dilly, yo. When I be on the mic, yes, I do my duty, yo. While up in the club, I be wild in the studio. You don't wanna vibe, nigga, really and truly, yo. My main thug, nigga named Julio, he moody, yo. Like a nigga that'll slap me with the toolie, yo. Bitch, nigga scared to death, act fruity, yo. Fuck that, look at shorty, she a little cutie, yo. The way you shake it, make me wanna get all in the booty, yo. With no delaying for what you saying, yo.
Diva Divine Light.
Really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
You're watching Diva, the Divine Light. A fun-loving, caring, passionate person who talks about sex, celebrity, and real-life issues, and even abuse. So hit that like button and make sure you share the show.
Really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fuck me, see what you got for me. Put more than hands with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
Here comes the pitch, and it comes in wide. On the double.
Yo, yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. And today is Saturday, and it is raining cats and dogs out here in New York. That's why me and Nunya ain't hook up today, because it's crazy out there. Who's going anywhere? Okay. Nunya, what's up, my baby girl? Hi, mommy. Honey bunny. What's up, my honey bunny? Hi. Rocking with the truth. What's up, my lady? Candy. What's up, Candy? What's up? West Coast Beja. What's up, my mama? Thank you so much for that donation yesterday. It was very appreciated, my love. It was very appreciated. Thank you so much for that, babe. God bless you. So, yeah, Candy, we're not together yet. I want to hook up with my sis, but like I said, it's raining cats and dogs, and I got craziness going on in my house. Things are happening. My mom got COVID. My grandma got COVID. My sister got COVID. My nephew got COVID. My niece got COVID. Thank God I didn't get COVID, and I'm trying to stay that way. So, I don't want Nunya coming over here and shit, you know what I mean? And, I don't want her to catch nothing, even though it's a common flu still, Hey, Mom, what's up? Good evening for you, my lovely lady. You should be getting ready to go to bed soon, right? It's like 10 p.m. where you at? 11? Something like that? Thank you, my love. Yeah, we trying to get some smoke and shit. And then, listen, I want to take her to a spot, but I don't know if they're going to be open tomorrow, too. Yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking raining cats and dogs. And, well, she in Jersey, so I don't know how bad Jersey getting it, but Jersey be getting a lot of water. So, guys, well, yeah, I for somebody who, you know, says they don't watch my channel and they ain't clocking me, okay, Miss uh Sylvia Parks, who's been subscribed to me since like the third month I think I was out here on YouTube. She's literally subscribed to me as Sylvia Parks, literally. Yeah, I noticed that a long time ago. I was like, okay, whatever, boo boo. All right, I see you. I see you, girl. I see you. So I'm trying not to yell because my husband's sleeping in the background, and y'all know that I be getting all hype and shit and talking all loud and shit. So I'm gonna try my best to like keep it on the low. I'm gonna try to talk with my inner voice. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. So, uh, Miss Sylvia, you is a funny lady. Hardy her. Hmm. You is a funny lady, girl. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. So you are giving misinformation. You're saying you're stating facts when you speak. Girl, everybody out here, when we speak our opinions and we speak facts. Okay? And when we speak facts is meaning, you know, information that's backed up by checking it out and researching and giving actual real information from documents and interviews and people and things like that. Those are facts, right? Opinions is when you say all the federal cases are going to be dropped because I said so, because that's my that's my fact. I'm speaking it into the air. Que it's a fact. Get the girl. You a fan. Stop it, Stan. 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 You're a Stan. Girl. Um, First of all, as you say, everything is a process, girl. Everything's a process. Okay. And the process isn't we put in the paperwork today and snap, he's out of jail. Woo! This doesn't work this way. You stand, girl. You're a stan. A stan. You're a stan. Admit it. Say yes. I am a stan. Yes, I am a stan. I am. Because there's so much injustice. All the injustice on R. Kelly. Everybody wants his money, including you. You're collecting money from other stands. That's funny. So what you doing? What you doing? Hmm, we on some fuckery Friday. Mm-hmm. Hey Aisha. Yeah. Another big fat fraud. The prophet is divine. hmm hmm So, girl, stop giving out misinformation and just say, in my opinion, I I think, I pray, I want him to be released. Hey, Karen, I want him to be released. Not that this is a fact. Girl, this is not a fact until his appeal goes through for New York because he hasn't put one in for Chicago yet. That's coming. I'm wondering if it's coming because the post trial motions haven't been put in yet. And we're waiting for that in like, I believe sometime this week They're supposed to be coming out for Chicago. The post-trial motions should be starting. So let's see what Bonjean decides to come up with for Chicago. Okay. Um, so yeah, his appeal in New York, we already know it's going to be denied just because. I mean, the judges are going to go, oh, okay, so he sex trafficked and that's part of racketeering. Okay, so he did commit the Mann Act. Yep. Okay, and he gave these girls herpes. And how do we know that he gave these girls herpes? Okay, and listen, the videos. Oh, there was videos of him doing what and what and chastising. Really? This guy is the devil. Do we let him go? Um, no, no, no. I'm sorry, but you know what? He's broken a lot of laws here. It doesn't matter how the government put it together. They put it together. And yeah, I mean, I went through the transcripts and I read this and I saw that and I saw this and I saw that. I have a couple of questions here. I have a couple of questions there. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Yeah, no, he needs to remain in jail where he belongs. Sorry, take this to the Supreme Court because we're not having it. Deuces. And that's my opinion. That is my opinion. That is not a fact. What I'm saying right now is my opinion. What's up, Shorty Rara? Okay, I'm just a blogger, blogging, giving information, and stating my opinions. And my opinion is R. Kelly is never coming home. That's my opinion. It's not a fact. One never knows. Everything is up to the courts, my dude. But uh he is convicted 2 times. Dos veces. Dos. Dos veces. I know you're Dominican. You know 1, 2, right? Uno, dos. I know you know some Spanish. I know you do, girl. I know. hmm So, right now, to get to the topic, yeah, they are dumb. So let me, yeah, honey, you said it. Stupid as shit. Why are they saying he's coming home, girl? Because you know what? I'm gonna tell you why right now. Because they are stands. Okay. Okay. Now, in the Urban Dictionary, I'm gonna share my screen with you all. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen with y'all. Boom. Okay. Let me know you can see the screen. Do you see what's on the screen here? It's the Urban Dictionary, okay? It's the Urban Dictionary. All right, y'all. And it says stan. So, as we know, a stan, okay, is a reference to the Eminem song Stan. Now, the song is about an overly obsessed fan named Stan who writes letters to Eminem and ends up driving off a bridge with his pregnant wife because Eminem didn't write him back. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Now, can you guys, we've all been out here for the past 4 years now, right? And I want you guys to do me a favor and drop in the chat what kind of outrageous things did these overly obsessed fans do? For example, right, it says that Stan wrote letters to Eminem. So, We're going to take Eminem out and we're going to put R. Kelly. Okay? So, the fan named Stan writes letters to Eminem and ends up driving off a bridge with his pregnant wife. Now, what kind of examples have these stands out here on YouTube have done? Can you guys chop it up in the chat and put it in the chat? The examples of the things they have done. Okay. All in the name of R. Kelly. Put some examples in there. Let's just drop some examples of the overzealous fans. Okay. Because the term means a very, very overzealous and obsessed fan of a celebrity, a band, or a cast of a TV show or a movie. Here's another example of a sentence. Person number one says, I love Ariana Grande so much. I would die for her. I would track her every move if I could. These are examples. I just love R. Kelly so much. I would die for him. I would track his every move if I could. Person number two. Whoa, don't be such a stan. That's me. Don't be such a stan, y'all. Y'all such a stan. You're a stan. Stay over there with your little stan ass. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So, this is the definition of a stan. Okay? Now, what is a stan and where does the name come from, right? Are you a stan? You've likely seen this term on social media sites, but what does it mean? We'll explain and equip you with the knowledge to spot stands in the future. What are stands? If you've been on any social media in the last 5 years, you've likely encountered the term stan. A stan is a highly devoted fan of a particular person, like a musician, an actor, an author, or influencer. Stans are characterized by their high commitment, okay, and intense involvement in a performer's fandom. The term is used as both a noun and a verb. So someone can identify as a stan of a pop artist, or they can also stan a new song or movie. So the history of standing, the term stan comes from the song of the same name on Eminem's 2001 album, the Marshall Matters LP. The track tells the story of an obsessed fan named Stan, who writes the rapper multiple letters. Eventually, Stan's obsession spirals out of control and he becomes violent. Some suspect Eminem named the character Stan because it was a combination of the words stalker and fan. Now, several years after the song's release, the term was picked up by early internet forums to refer to ardent fans. And since then, it's evolved into a catch all term for self identified online fans of all types of media personalities and artists. It's used on social media networks, on social networking sites, but especially on Twitter. So, a movement called Stan culture has also appeared. Many online stands communicate, behave, and self identify in specific ways. Are we not right? This is how the R. Kelly stands work. They do specific things, they move in certain ways, they behave a certain way, they communicate a certain way, right? Everything's a pattern. So, being a stan usually involves joining a particular artist's fandom, like Kel's Nation, Dream Team, the infamous Miss Sylvia's Inspector Gadgets, you know, Hollywood Hex, all these little groups, right? Right? And everybody else like spitting fire and all them other hot, everybody else that's a hot mess. So now, being a stan usually involves joining a particular artist fandom and building a community with other like minded stans. Okay? Okay? Now, what do stans do? Okay? Most internet stans are part of a collective known as Stan Twitter, right? Its anonymous nature, coupled with the ability to actually interact with celebrities, has made Twitter the most popular place for stans to meet up. So most stans don't use any personally identifying information in their Twitter handles either. So instead, they usually create a name and use a profile picture related to the celebrity that they stan, right? How many Twitter pages have you guys seen on Twitter with R. Kelly's face on it? Or even on YouTube? How many of them have profile pictures with R. Kelly? Right? Right? So instead, they usually create a name and use a profile picture related to the celebrity they stan, right? So stans are often able to organize and create large scale movements that have a momentary impact on social media. Hashtag free R. Kelly, right? They engage in the following activities to support their favorite artists. They are actively streaming or purchasing new songs and albums so they'll rank higher on music charts. Isn't that what happened with R. Kelly? The case came out and his sales went booming. Bow, boom, pow, pow, pow. Right? Right? Right. And then another thing is regularly posting or tweeting about their favorite artists to raise awareness. Woof, right? Right? And also creating and popularizing various hashtags like free R. Kelly, hashtag uh uh him too, or something like that. Whatever the hell their name was, trends and memes, right? All these memes they put up, right? And justice for R. Kelly, free R. Kelly, right? Also, joining advocacies and raising money for charitable causes their favorite artist supports. Uh like GoFundMe's and billboards and commercials and uh the Innocence Project and all this dumb shit. Change.org, petitions, and all these things, right? Are they not describing a stand to a T? Oh, yeah, I think so. Mhm. Also, participating in stand wars. Okay, okay. Stand wars, guys. Stand wars. This involves arguing with the stands of another artist who's a perceived rival. Well, the stand wars on this side of YouTube is against us. Against us. Okay? We're the rivals over here. Okay, so the stand wars are against all the people who are not for R. Kelly, who stand with the survivors of R. Kelly. Okay? Right. So they do stand wars. That's what we be in the middle of. Stand wars, guys. Stand wars. Now, I'm not seeing the chat, but I will go into the chat in a minute when I'm done. Now, this involves arguing with the stands of another artist who is a perceived rival, right? They don't just argue with us, they argue with other people on Twitter, other artists who might speak out about R. Kelly, right? Right? That's what they do. Stand wars. Then they also have this thing defending their favorite artists during any controversies or scandal. As you can see, that's exactly what they do. Free R. Kelly, they're liars. These whores. Oh my God, everybody's looking for money. R. Kelly's music, and they want his money, and they want to bring a black man down, and oh, all this crying. Because that's what they're doing. Crying. We don't cry over here. We laugh at y'all. Ain't nobody here crying. Nobody's crying. We are applauding and laughing. We are applauding the government for the best job they could have done, and they did a good job. Okay? Okay? That's what we do over here. We applaud the women for being strong enough to come forward and tell their story to the world. And we applaud the women for taking accountability for when they were wrong, because they were wrong for being where they were, but they did what they did because they were coerced. Okay? Okay. Right. So, we all know the deal. R. Kelly ain't never getting home. That's my opinion. It's not a fact. It's my opinion. Okay? Okay. Now, stans also frequently like and reply to posts from celebrities who have a social media presence. Now, many stans also participate in more insular activities, such as creating memes and sharing inside jokes with other stans in the community. Okay? And as an unusual part of the culture is the dominance of fan cams, which are short clips of dancing Korean pop stars. Now, stans typically reply to various unrelated posts with these to communicate the performing skills of these artists. Like on YouTube, what they do with R. Kelly. Here's a concert. We're going to take the concert. We're going to post it. Everybody loves them. They're commenting. Everybody's happy. Things like that. So, excuse me, stans and online culture. Now, stans have had a profound effect on overall internet culture. The most evident example of this is the expanding usage of stan language, which is a collection of terms frequently used on stan Twitter. So, some examples include BOP, bop, an enjoyable pop song, and sis, SIS, which is short for sister. So, in recent years, however, the media has emphasized the toxicity of stan culture. Now, due to their anonymity, insularity, and dedication, some stans regularly participate in nefarious activities. And we all know that, right? We know what these nefarious activities are, some of these stans be doing out here for R. Kelly, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We do. We sure do. Now, these have included trolling, doxing, bullying, and the targeted harassment of others online. Now, conversely, many artists enjoy this level of interaction and self identification among their fans. It can also be especially positive when stands use their vast numbers and organization to perform political advocacy or raise money for charities. And yeah, so that's what they do. Okay? This is what they do, y'all. This is what they do. Let me close out what I've already read to y'all. Now, I found this interesting uh, article from NPR. Okay. And this article came out on October 17th of 2019. And it's an 18-minute listen. So, and it talks about the 2010s social media and the birth of Stan culture. All right, so we're going to listen to this real quick. You guys can post your comments in the chat. I will post it up while we are listening. And let me know, guys. Give me a thumbs up if it sounds good, that it doesn't sound too loud or muffled, or, let me know if it sounds just right and you can hear it well.
It's All Songs Considered from NPR Music. I'm Robin Hilton. I'm here with Sydney Madden. Hey, Sydney.
Hey, Robin.
So over the next few weeks, the NPR Music team is going to be looking back at the past decade in music, the 2010s. We're going to be looking at like the trends and the themes and moments that define the past decade. And one of the things we've talked about a lot on the team is how huge social media became and how much it disrupted everything in the music industry.
It really lifted things up, but also reconfigured the playing field. It has given so much power to the fan bases that it almost dictates what the artists do.
And that includes how they make music, how they make their living. And it's not just musicians, but also music critics as well. You know, how fans can have so much power on social media that they can end up affecting the way albums and artists are received critically.
It's really created something called stan culture or standom. Think of it as fandom on overdrive.
So you talked with NPR Music's Stephen Thompson and Ann Powers and Joshua Bote of USA Today about this whole phenomenon.
Yeah, we had a conversation about it all, the peaks and the pitfalls. And that conversation started with a moment that happened about 7 years ago with the artist Amanda Palmer. Here's Stephen Thompson explaining it.
In 2012, the singer Amanda Palmer went on Kickstarter to finance an album and raised $1.2 million. And throughout the decade, she has created a relationship with her fans where her fans will send her little bits and ideas and she'll integrate that into her songwriting.
That's awesome.
And it's fascinating to see artists realize, like, I don't necessarily have to sell 1 million records. If I have 25,000 people who are extremely devoted, that can perpetuate a very, very successful career. You have a bunch of examples throughout the decade of fans getting more and more integrated into artistic output. A couple of years ago, a 14-year-old Twitter user using the Twitter handle at Weezer Africa badgered the band Weezer into covering Toto's Africa. It was this constant little churn of like every time Weezer would tweet something, it'd be like, you know what else? If you bless the rains down in Africa. And it was just a funny little idea that just kind of kept percolating on the internet. Weezer finally relents, covers the song, and it's their biggest hit in years and years, ends up inspiring an entire album of covers, and kind of brings Weezer back into the forefront of popular music hit making. more and more musicians are taking ideas from fans.
And it's not just using fans' ideas to create music. Some artists have even used fans' ideas to go after other artists. One example I can think of is the rap beef between Drake and Meek Mill back in 2015. I'll spare you all the play-by-plays, but basically, Meek got on Twitter one day and he was complaining that Drake was not helping to promote a song of his. And he even threw some subliminal shots claiming that Drake had a ghostwriter. And this is like, at the time, a cardinal sin in hip hop. So instead of starting a Twitter beef back and forth, Drake drops a diss song called Back to Back. A bellwether for stan culture and internet culture in the new decade in general. It's the first time a rap beef was aided and really carried into new territory by the internet. Because what happened is every lyric of the song became a meme. Fans created memes to kind of gas up the beef. And then it just became a feedback loop of making fun of Meek Mill, you know? And then after, Drake held his annual festival, OVO Fest, in Toronto. And what he did is he basically made a PowerPoint of all the memes and performed the song while the memes played in the background. And by the end of the year, this song, which was basically a SoundCloud freestyle taking down Meek Mill, it was nominated for a Grammy. Let's just think about that guy. But you know what? There's another side to this too, where social media can turn the peanut gallery into a group with a mob mentality. If a fan is offended by something an artist does or something that a critic says, they'll motivate and they'll go after that critic or that artist. And Joshua, I know as a trending reporter, you've had a lot of experience in watching this, covering it.
Yeah. One of the biggest examples to me was this writer. Her name was Hania Angus. She's this British writer. She's an Ariana Grande fan. And earlier this year when Seven Rings came out, she was a fan, but then she tweeted out a slightly critical comment just about how Ariana Grande exploits or, borrows from Black culture sort of liberally. And all these fans came for her like en masse.
So what was it specifically about this song that garnered that criticism?
It's the trap cadences that she borrows, the production value of it, the incorporation of lyrics about buying hair. And she's not a Black woman, just very specific insinuations of Black culture that she doesn't lay claim to. Will have stands coming at your throat to the point where you yourself will be canceled, not so much the artist that you're trying to critique.
You know, what's interesting, Joshua, from what you're saying is how the critic in that case felt the need to constantly reiterate that she is a fan. Right. I am a fan. That's a totally different attitude about being a critic than what people shared in the kind of glory days of pre-internet music writing. It used to be that the critic was supposed to always be a little adversarial or at least, have a perspective that was different. But now I myself feel this, you have to say, oh, no, but I'm a fan. But, it's become its own tragic meme.
The power dynamic is the thing that really gets to me. That Ariana Grande, who has a billion fans at her disposal, can throw her weight down on one critic. And something really similar happened to Nicki Minaj last year. She dropped the song Chun-Li off her album Queen. And this critic, Wanda Thompson, she's a huge Nicki Minaj fan, like a stan almost. And she wrote a small critique of her song, and Nicki Minaj tweeted at her, and all the barbs came at her neck. Essentially, being a stan has really big ramifications in real life.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about the most recent history of this, and something like this happened to you.
Yeah, I wrote a piece about Lana Del Rey and her most recent and quite amazing album, which I love, Norman effing Rockwell.
You're a big fan.
I'm a fan. And it was published all that afternoon. I received some lovely complimentary feedback from fellow writers. And then literally, as I was just preparing to lay down for my night of sleep, I look one more time at my phone, and there's 2 tweets from Lana Del Rey objecting to the piece, saying I really didn't get her, making some specific objections, which, my heart sunk a little bit. I wanted this artist to appreciate the fact that I appreciated her. And I also thought, oh, shit.
I'm sure this will
Because
go fine.
I know. So indeed, for quite a while afterward, my Twitter feed became a scroll of people responding and standing up for Lana. But I have to say, there were just as many people saying, "Hey, I read this piece and actually wasn't negative. Maybe Lana, maybe you should read it more thoroughly." I felt it was a constructive discussion. It was very overwhelming, however, and I think that is another thing to think about when we're thinking about stan culture, because a question someone might have from the outside, someone who's not involved in popular culture in this way, is, well, why is it such a big deal? So some people are saying stuff about you on your Twitter feed. It has real life effects.
Absolutely. And
But-
sometimes it can even get into dangerous territory where the stands can organize and find your home address
Publish
or
your
start
address.
tweeting or start posting photos of you or your child or significant other. They can really tap into your entire life and livelihood.
But I think the thing is, what people don't understand, people who may look at a situation like this and say, well, words can't hurt you. Fandom has become this public stance that cannot be contained in the way it could be in the past. And it has a wider reach than anything fans have been able to do before.
And our conversation about
I
social
agree with
media
that.
and the rise of stan culture in the 2010s will continue right after this short break. It's All Songs Considered.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from membership. Take men's
With USA
For a while, but there's feedback from critics because there's just so much stuff to write about that it's easier to celebrate this and advance the stuff that you love. Now, artists have been thin-skinned for millennia, don't get me wrong, but fewer artists are really conditioned to experiencing criticism. And even somebody as relentlessly wonderful as Lizzo, she popped off really angrily on Twitter in response to a fairly middling
Yeah.
review.
Of her
very
debut album.
well considered review too.
Yeah, and was very, very angry about it. And I was like, man, what's with this? Oh, it's not to suggest that Lizzo has not heard negativity, but hasn't necessarily experienced a lot of negativity from critics. And I think that has made it, again, another element that has made it harder to have like a nuanced critical conversation.
But there are examples of the fans or the stans going at the artists themselves.
Mhm.
One example I can point out is the Beehive. Back in, I want to say it was 2015, Beyonce, she was dropping tidbits that she was going to make this huge announcement. And she goes on Good Morning America and she announces she's trying veganism. Right. Not an album, not a tour, not a clothing line, not a fragrance, not a
4 years ago,
veganism.
I'm sitting here lighting a torch.
right. Right. I was hot that day because I do not watch Good Morning America. I tuned in for her to learn she's plant-based now. Cool. Great, Beyonce. But anyway, after hinting that, it was supremely pissed off the Beehive, and her album sales actually dipped a little bit that week because of it. So there are tangible results. And when the wrath of fans gets so great and it starts to really impede on what the artist can do and how well the artist's music does, that really channels itself into cancel culture.
Yeah, cancel culture is just this phenomenon where if an artist, whether it be a musician or comedian or whoever, does something problematic, they get deemed canceled. And that means that people won't consume their art anymore, people won't buy their songs or their albums or whatever.
Right.
One that really sticks to me from last year was this artist Doja Cat. She released this viral trending song called Moo,
Mm-hmm.
where she raps about being a cow. It's really funny. Doja Cat didn't take that well. She clapped back saying, I was young, these words don't mean anything. And the wrath of fans really came back to bite her.
I've said this before. I think cancel culture disproportionately claims women artists more than men. Another big song last year was Sheck West and his song Mo Bamba. That song had a meteoric rise. And even when he was accused of domestic violence from a former girlfriend and there was video to back it up, it didn't matter. It's like nothing could stop that song. So there's a varying degree of who does and does not get canceled and what warrants cancellation.
Right. That's a great point, Sid. These gestures, they're not totally dismantling the master's house, to quote Audre Lorde. They're not taking apart a system that's long favored male artists in lots of ways.
We can speak on that. That's a whole different podcast.
That's another edition of this podcast series. But I also want to stand up for what some may consider an outdated concept in 2019, which is free expression. I think that while I absolutely don't support any isms or bigotry or hate in any way, I do think that music and all forms of art, it's a crucial arena for us to confront challenging and even transgressive attitudes and impulses within people. And I do worry a little bit about the self-righteousness of some of this cancel culture.
Well, self-righteousness is free speech too.
As long as we can argue about it.
It's not a right to free speech without consequences.
That's true. But the very concept of cancel silences.
I agree.
That's my problem with it.
I agree with what he just said. You have a right to free speech, but with that sometimes comes consequences, bro.
It silences.
And that's Sam Powers, along with Stephen Thompson and Joshua Bote and Sid, talking about the ways that social media, like for better or worse, has completely disrupted the relationships between fans and artists. And I guess the question now is, where does this leave us?
It's really hard to say. I mean, especially since we're still in the thick of it. And it's hard to say how much the whole model could be disrupted or broken or expanded again, you know? But one thing's for sure, the genie is out of the bottle. And that said, it's possible we could see the equivalent of a market correction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this with so many other social media sites, even like something like MySpace or Facebook, which has kind of taken a hit in recent years, which there's a big wave of popularity, and then there ends up being some sort of backlash. Users drop off, and things kind of
the attrition rate,
right? They just start, and everything kind of calms down and hopefully settles in a good place.
Yeah, and users peel away, and it kind of like it allows for a reset sometimes for the place and the community to get back to core values. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to say I'm optimistic about the future of stan culture and fandom online. I see really positive notes in fan communities now of certain artists. And I feel like if we just keep promoting that behavior and that ethos within these little communities, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sydney.
Thank you, Robin.
So what did you guys think about that? What do you guys think about what they were saying? Good information, right? It's true. These people, they get into these groups, these communities, and get the artists riled up. Then they tell the fans, "Oh, fuck this person or fuck that person, go get them. We strong, the Beehive, the Barbs, this, the that." You know what I mean? The Kells Steppers, Kells Nation. The fandom is real. The fandom is real. The delusions are real. So I'm going to take you guys out with this that I got from one of our girls. I don't remember who it was that sent this to me. I think it was Shorty. I'm not even sure. Or I saw it somewhere. Somebody posted it and I copied it. Yeah, it's real. RSK supporters proved it. They prove it. The doxing, the everything, the harassment, the posting of the families, all that. They are true stands to the definition. They are. That's exactly what they are. Stands. Now, this is from an Apple podcast called Court Junkies. And they talk about true crime. And she had an interview with what's his name again? John Seidel, who works for the Sun Times. And this was a pretty good podcast. So I figured you guys, we'd listen to it. and kind of get a recap of what's happened with R. Kelly so far to date, from past to date, starting with his trials.
In the 1990s, Aaliyah was one of the most promising and successful singers in the world. I was a huge fan. Her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, sold more than 3 million copies when she was only 15. The follow-up to that record sold more than 8 million copies. The Recording Academy nominated her for Grammy Awards. She starred in feature films. She was even slated to star in the 2 Matrix sequels. She recorded music with some of the biggest stars of the era: Missy Elliott, DMX, Timbaland. She affectionately earned the nickname the Princess of R&B. And when music writers and commentators would spell out her history, some of the credit for her success fell not only to her, but also to an older man, the hugely successful R&B singer R. Kelly, the singer behind songs such as I Believe I Can Fly, and his collaboration with Michael Jackson, You Are Not Alone. After appearing on Star Search at such a young age, she signed her first record contract with Jive Records at the age of 12. Her uncle then introduced her to R. Kelly, perhaps the best-known Jive Records artist in history, who acted as a mentor for her. He helped her write and produce Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. The album was a huge success, and R. Kelly received much of the acclaim. Aaliyah and R. Kelly would become close, very close. They'd be seen together in public. They'd attend events together. To outsiders, their relationship appeared to extend beyond business and music. Soon, rumors started to gain traction that when Aaliyah was just 15 years old, under the age of consent for any state in the country, R. Kelly got her pregnant and they married in a secret ceremony. Aaliyah denied the rumors to Inside Edition.
3 years ago, there was this terrible rumor out. What is the deal with you and R. Kelly? Are you all married or not?
No, I'm not married. Robert's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. He's a great producer, great artist who I do admire, and there's nothing left there.
The rumors persisted, however. But Aaliyah was never able to tell a deeper story about what really happened between her and R. Kelly. On August 25th, 2001, tragedy struck. ABC 7 New York was among the first to report it.
The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film. Reaction today after Aaliyah and 8 others were killed when their plane went down.
Aaliyah died at the age of just 22 in an airplane accident in the Bahamas. But as time went on, that didn't stop the rumors about Aaliyah's relationship with R. Kelly, because rumors about R. Kelly's relationships with other underage kids grew louder. Newspapers printed articles from anonymous and named sources. Commentators confronted the rumors in public discussions and critiques. Lawsuits were filed and settlement agreements were reached. In 2002, an anonymous tip led investigators to a videotape where R. Kelly was allegedly sexually abusing an underage girl who was said to be 14. He was indicted on 21 counts of making child sex abuse materials. In 2008, he went to trial, but the jury reportedly felt that it hadn't been proven that the girl in the video was underage, and so he was acquitted on all counts. But years later, a Lifetime documentary collected all of those allegations into one damning series, Surviving R. Kelly. Pressure mounted on him. In an interview with Gayle King in 2019, he lost his composure.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I can't have 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career.
Then, in the summer of 2019, R. Kelly finally came under scrutiny from law enforcement again. That year, not one, but 3 different jurisdictions filed serious charges against him, alleging that he abused children. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office in Chicago, and 2 federal district courts, one in New York, the other in Illinois. Today, we'll explore those cases, but this episode is a little different than most Court Junkie episodes. We don't have audio from the trials or transcripts, but we do feature a journalist who was there for every step of the way. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 216, which overwhelm you with thousands of colors, clip to the paint EPA chemicals of psychopaths. I think this podcast is a really cool concept that...
For the Chicago Sun-Times.
John Seidel is a journalist and author in Chicago.
My name is John Seidel, and I cover federal courts in Chicago for the Chicago Sun-Times. I got started on that beat in April of 2015, so it's been about 7.5 years now.
John is also the author of a book, Second City Sinners, which dives into the stories of Chicago's most infamous criminals. More on that later. But we start today digging deeper into another infamous character, R. Kelly. John got a front row seat to the singer's most recent criminal trial. It was in the Northern District of the federal court system in Illinois. John had been aware of rumors about R. Kelly for years prior to covering that trial. One of his colleagues at the Chicago Sun-Times, Jim DeRogatis, had been reporting about R. Kelly and accusations against him since the mid-1990s. And in 2002, DeRogatis received a major tip. It was a home video recorded onto an unlabeled VHS tape.
He says he does not know where it came from. There have been theories out there about where it came from, but he says that he does not know who dropped it there, and that he took the video out of his mailbox, he put it in the VCR, and it depicted R. Kelly sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl.
Journalism norms can often be messy. Reporters might withhold tips or materials involving potential crimes from police and prosecutors in the interest of public disclosure. They might do this especially if those tips could get an innocent person in major trouble. In this case, DeRogatis and his editors at the Sun-Times felt that this videotape needed to be in the hands of law enforcement.
The newspaper, once they realized what they had, turned the tape over to police, deciding that they had evidence of a felony and it was their responsibility to tell the police about it. That was in 2002, and later that year, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office did bring a child pornography case against R. Kelly.
The pre-trial phase of that case dragged on for years. Motions and meetings, pre-trial sessions between attorneys and the judge assigned to the case, questions about discovery and the veracity of the home video itself.
It is generally acknowledged that delay was good for the defense. It meant that the alleged victim continued to grow older, and people's memories faded, things like that. So the longer it dragged on, the better for R. Kelly, and it did finally go to trial in 2008.
Cheers and jeers greeted R&B singer R. Kelly as he arrived at Cook County Court for jury selection. Kelly faces child pornography charges from a 2002 indictment. Authorities believe they have a videotape showing Kelly having sex with an underage girl about 8 years ago.
The delays did seem like they ended up benefiting R. Kelly's defense team. The 2008 case in Cook County against him failed to convince a jury.
He was found not guilty, and the primary reason that was cited then by the jury for their decision was the alleged victim, the girl on that tape, declined to testify during the trial. So the jurors were left with accusations from the prosecutors. They had this tape. I believe a family member of the girl also testified during that trial. I want to double check myself, but I believe a family member testified and said it wasn't her. While others testified that it was, the family denied that it was her. She did not testify. And I do believe, I did speak once to the foreman of that jury. And I think that they just felt like the prosecutors just did not bring them enough evidence. They didn't have what they needed to convict. And so they felt like they made the right decision for what they had to work with.
The failure to convict R. Kelly on those charges in 2008 kept him out of prison, but rumors continued to swirl. Then, an unrelated series of news stories and a movement that those stories helped to inspire put R. Kelly's actions back in the national spotlight. In 2017, public on-the-record accusations emerged alleging that the film producer, Harvey Weinstein, abused dozens of women over the course of decades. Those accusations led to the Me Too movement, which became a viral call to action. Around this time, journalist and filmmaker Dream Hampton began putting together a team to research and contact people who had, both publicly and privately, spoken about unsettling encounters with R. Kelly. Her efforts resulted in the 11-episode Lifetime docuseries, Surviving R. Kelly. Released in January 2019, it accomplished something that no prosecutor had previously been able to do. It compelled victims and witnesses to share an unprecedented number of horrifying stories about R. Kelly, often using their real names rather than speaking anonymously. The series also revealed more information about the underage girl at the center of the 2008 prosecution.
And I should say, I mean, we've seen evidence since there's been testimony that actually the relationship between Kelly and that girl and her family continued on, even including up until the time when Surviving R. Kelly aired.
And the series highlighted another example of R. Kelly's criminal past that had been hiding in plain sight, his rumored marriage to Aaliyah. The Lifetime series brought her story and her relationship to R. Kelly back into public consciousness.
We also had, probably shouldn't get lost in this conversation, the episode with the singer Aaliyah, who R. Kelly married when I believe he was 27 and she was 15 years old at the time. That was another episode that went public involving R. Kelly and an underage girl. So all of this stuff was kind of right out there for the public to see. But the Surviving R. Kelly documentary just turned out to be so powerful and right amid the rise of the Me Too movement.
At least one prosecutor took notice. In the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, where the failed 2008 prosecution originated, there was a new lead prosecutor in charge. Her name was Kim Fox, and she held a press conference following the release of Surviving R. Kelly. In it, she called for victims to come forward. A month later, in February 2019, she brought new state charges against R. Kelly.
Yesterday, Robert Kelly was indicted before a Cook County grand jury on 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving 4 victims.
R. Kelly skipped his preliminary hearing due to an unspecified medical condition. But soon, he wouldn't be able to make excuses for not showing up in court. He'd be delivered there from jail. Court Junkie is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Discounts for having 21 emotions. Full with professionally licensed LP.com/to-get-fast-food. Courts. New York's Eastern District and Illinois' free for the next 5 months. Ordered food and ate inside. Then, when he finished, he and his entourage went to a cigar bar. This was, of course, reported on by the local news. They went to a popular McDonald's. He spent only 3 nights in a Cook County State's Attorney help.com/court. That's BetterHelp, HELP, ft.com/court. After Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx filed felony charges against R. Kelly related to producing and trafficking child sex abuse materials, he posted bail and walked free. He spent only 3 nights in a Cook County jail. Kelly's entourage picked him up from jail on the last Monday afternoon of February 2019 and took him to get fast food. They went to a popular McDonald's in Chicago's River North neighborhood. He ordered food and ate inside. Then, when he finished, he and his entourage went to a cigar bar. This was, of course, reported on by the local news. R. Kelly remained free for the next 5 months, but his freedom didn't last long. In July 2019, prosecutors in 2 federal district courts, New York's Eastern District and Illinois' Northern District, brought multiple felony charges against him. In New York, he was facing charges of sexual abuse, racketeering, bribery, forced labor, kidnapping, racketeering for purposes of sexual exploitation of a child, and sex trafficking across state lines. The charges in Illinois were similar, with 2 key differences. First, federal prosecutors honed in on his exploitation of children for the purpose of filming them in videos. The federal charges in Illinois included 4 counts of producing and conspiring to receive child sex abuse materials. And second, Illinois prosecutors charged him with conspiring to obstruct justice by rigging the 2008 trial in Cook County. The final indictment said that he did so by paying 2 people $140,000 to locate any copies of his videotapes containing child sex abuse materials that might have been in public circulation to ensure that Cook County prosecutors couldn't find them. The federal prosecutions pushed Kim Foxx's Cook County efforts into the background, effectively putting that case on hold while the federal proceedings played out first. Federal jailers took R. Kelly into custody and housed him at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan. A judge denied him bail, agreeing with prosecutors that he was a flight risk and a danger to the public. John Seidel remembers first hearing about all the indictments.
I remember very clearly, I was at home. I think this was a Thursday night, but at the time I was working Sundays through Thursday, and so I thought my work week had ended. And we started hearing rumblings that R. Kelly had been arrested by the feds, and started making phone calls, doing the job, and pinned down that yes, indeed, R. Kelly had been indicted here in the Northern District.
Then, as the proceedings moved forward, the pandemic hit.
And so from the get-go, there were questions about how these 2 cases, which became public at the same time, were going to proceed. Where R. Kelly, he was held in custody, where he was going to be held, were they going to ship him back and forth across the country for hearings, what was going to happen. And of course, COVID then hit.
COVID significantly delayed the beginning of R. Kelly's cases. A judge initially set his federal trial in Illinois to begin first, in April 2020, with the New York proceedings set to begin 3 weeks later. Neither trial went forward until much later, and the order of the cases flipped. The New York case went to trial first, beginning on August 18, 2021.
The New York case proceeded first. The New York case was a racketeering case, which was very unusual for the use of the racketeering statutes to allege some kind of criminal conspiracy. And it really was. The allegation in New York was that the whole business of being R. Kelly was the criminal enterprise. And that criminal enterprise was designed to steer girls, boys, and young women into criminal sexual relationships, abusive sexual relationships with R. Kelly. just like the whole thing was just about that. And Aaliyah was part of that case.
In New York, the rumors about R. Kelly's secret pregnancy and marriage with Aaliyah finally received attention from prosecutors.
Kelly's former manager just took the stand. He told the jury that the Grammy winner confided in him back in 1994 that Aaliyah was pregnant with his baby. Shortly after, they had a quickie, and prosecutors say illegal marriage. R. Kelly was 27 and Aaliyah was just 15 years old.
Unlike the Cook County case from almost a decade and a half earlier, the New York federal criminal trial against R. Kelly went in favor of the prosecutors.
The result was that R. Kelly, for the first time, was convicted. He was convicted at the end of that case, and he was sentenced earlier this year to 30 years in prison as a result of that conviction.
R. Kelly's federal trial in Illinois proceeded next in August 2022.
A month and a half after he gets this 30-year prison sentence, he's going to trial all over again in Chicago. And in fact, the Chicago trial began pretty close to the 1-year anniversary of the start of his New York trial. These two trials started almost exactly a year apart.
In Illinois, the focus wasn't on R. Kelly's criminal enterprise. It was actually more focused on the 2008 trial. John describes the Illinois federal charges fitting into 3 main buckets of alleged offenses.
So the first bucket is kind of the most serious charges was 4 counts alleging that R. Kelly produced child pornography through his sexual abuse of the victim from the 2008 trial. Remember, this is the victim who did not testify. That's the first set of charges. The second set of charges were generally conspiracy charges alleging that he obstructed the 2008 trial, securing that acquittal illegally, and also that he conspired to receive child pornography. But really what that one was about was the fact that in the midst of the attempt to prosecute him in the early 2000s, the allegation was that he was paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to hunt down any other tapes that might incriminate him, which again would amount to child pornography. So those conspiracy charges are kind of like the second bucket. And the third is a series of allegations that he enticed minors into criminal sexual activity. There were 5 different victims alleged to have been abused by R. Kelly. And so this all goes back to the 2008 trial where they first tried to hold R. Kelly accountable.
But there were key differences between the case from back in 2008 and the federal criminal case in Illinois.
But the biggest one was that the victim who declined to testify in 2008 testified against him this time. This time she took the stand, and this time she said that she had been abused, hundreds, uncountable numbers of times by R. Kelly when she was a teenager. And that not only that was that tape from the 2008 trial, not only was that her, but there were 2 other trials. Two other videos that prosecutors had secured, which she said also depicted her being abused by R. Kelly. And then, interestingly enough, the feds also tried to present evidence of a 4th video. They didn't have it. They couldn't show it to the jury. They claimed that it exists, and R. Kelly was also charged because of that video.
And so R. Kelly would have another day in court alongside co-defendants Daryl McDavid and Milton June Brown. Prosecutors alleged that they had helped Kelly by concealing those tapes showing him with the victim, known in court as Jane. The entire weight of the federal criminal justice system was falling on R. Kelly and people with whom he had worked for years. R. Kelly's federal trial in Illinois began on August 15th and ended on September 14th of this year. John Seidel was there for the whole thing. He set the scene.
So the way they had this set up, the trial took place in the what they call the ceremonial courtroom in the Dirksen building on the 25th floor. It's the largest courtroom in the entire building. The jury is not in a jury box. The jury is actually seated in the center part of what's normally the public gallery. The well of the courtroom is full of lawyers, and R. Kelly and his two co-defendants.
As the trial began, federal prosecutors brought forward their case.
The argument that they made was that R. Kelly was a superstar with a dark side. They argued that not only did he sexually abuse children, but that he and Daryl McDavid and Milton Brown sought to cover that up and sought to protect R. Kelly from prosecution in the 2000s, that they intimidated this victim who the 2008 trial was centered around, that they intimidated her family. They sent them away to foreign countries to get them away from the press and from authorities, and that this was a conspiracy that lasted 2 decades.
We know who R. Kelly is. Who were the two men prosecuted alongside of him in Illinois? Well, Daryl McDavid was Kelly's former accountant and then business manager.
He was an accountant, he was a manager, and he had other clients in addition to R. Kelly, but he got connected with R. Kelly in the early days and helped manage R. Kelly's business.
Milton Brown, R. Kelly's second co-defendant, was another former employee of Kelly's who played a more hidden but disturbing role in Kelly's actions, according to prosecutors.
Interesting thing about Milton Brown is how he kind of faded into the background throughout this entire trial. He was kind of a driver and a gopher, and the big thing about him, the feds say he carried this duffel bag. He was trusted by R. Kelly to carry this duffel bag that was supposedly full of VHS tapes depicting R. Kelly's sexual encounters, including alleged child pornography.
In their opening statements, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jason Julian told the jury that R. Kelly made videotapes of himself having sex with children, and that his co-defendants, Daryl McDavid and Milton Brown, knew about it. In their opening statements, Kelly's defense said that Jane, the victim who was at the center of the 2008 case, along with her family, had denied that Kelly had done anything to her for more than 2 decades. They said that prosecutors waited to bring this case in a mob justice climate, where hashtag movements tell us what we should and should not believe. The prosecution called a compelling list of witnesses, including Jane. She was the most compelling witness, according to John. Jane was now 37 years old. She told the jury that she met R. Kelly when she was 12 or 13. Her aunt introduced her to him because Jane wanted to be an R&B singer and was in a band with her cousins. After they met, Kelly came to one of their performances and complimented her. She said she was excited that such a successful person was telling her that she was gifted. At one point, her aunt encouraged her to ask Kelly to be her godfather, and he said yes. In the weeks that followed, she spent more and more time with Kelly, alone, and their conversations turned sexual. Then he began abusing her. She told the jury how Kelly would also crush on her friends and ask her to get them to join them. She detailed how she started consuming a lot of alcohol, which took her away from the moment. This time on the stand, she confirmed that it was, in fact, her with Kelly in the videos. She told the jury that Kelly abused her hundreds of times, from when she was 14 until she was 18. He was around 30 at the time. She described an incident in which, after R. Kelly learned that their video was about to go public in 2002, he met with Jane and her parents at a hotel. During that meeting, Jane said Kelly dropped to his knees, grabbed his head, and apologized for sexually abusing her. She said he begged for her dad's forgiveness, and as the family was leaving, Kelly followed them to the elevator, and asked them not to turn on him. She said her dad told him, "I can't help you." But, she said, her parents ultimately sided with Kelly. She testified that they couldn't afford lawyers and didn't want to lose her. When asked why she finally decided to come forward after declining to testify in 2008 and after lying to a Cook County grand jury, she said she became exhausted with living with his lies. She testified that she was ashamed. She said she had planned on taking her secret encounters with Kelly to her grave. On cross, Kelly's defense attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, asked about contact Jane continued to have with Kelly up until 2019. Jane agreed that she began living with Kelly and his wife when she was 17, a legal age in Illinois, Bonjean pointed out, and that she had sexual relations with both of them. When she moved out at the age of 24, she said she received financial help from him and continued to be intimate with him. Kelly paid her rent and gave her a used SUV she could drive. Bonjean also pointed out that Jane's dad, who plays guitar, continued working with Kelly, even after Kelly was first charged and in the years after his acquittal. Bonjean introduced text messages to the jury between Kelly and Jane from 2018, where they exchanged happy birthdays and made plans to meet up. Then, in 2019, after Surviving R. Kelly had aired, they continued to talk over text. Jane, at one point, texted him, "I'm super worried about you." Bonjean asked her if she was testifying for financial reasons and asked if she was going to be paid for her story after the trial. "You decided to cooperate not because you needed to get something off your chest, but because there were benefits." Jane denied this. Prosecutors also reintroduced the videotape from the 2008 trial, along with others.
And then jurors actually viewed 17 snippets of the 3 tapes that were at issue. And that was, I think, just a very sobering moment. And so that was kind of how the first week of that trial ended. Very powerful, sobering stuff.
Jane's mom, Susan, also testified. She said she thought Kelly being Jane's godfather was kind of strange, and that Jane already had godparents. She told the jury that she believed Jane was spending time with Kelly and his family, going to the movies, shopping, or just hanging out with the kids. As for the meeting Jane had testified about in the hotel, where Jane had said Kelly cried and asked for forgiveness, Susan said that Kelly never admitted to the abuse, but said he was sorry and was crying. She said they were told that they needed to leave town right away, and that Kelly and Daryl McDavid asked, "Are you with us or are you not?" As for her testimony before a Cook County grand jury back then, she said Kelly wanted them to paint a picture to let them know that it wasn't Jane on the tape. She admitted that she lied and told the grand jury that it was Kelly on the tape, but not her daughter. When asked why she lied, she said they feared for their lives and were intimidated. She said Jane had threatened to harm herself and to run away and never talk to them again. On cross, Susan acknowledged that she and her family have an immunity deal with prosecutors and that they have to tell the truth. Susan said she and her family were harassed and that Kelly was a powerful man, but she conceded that Kelly himself never did the harassing. Someone who is so intimidated and scared and threatened as you are telling this jury here, you wouldn't have maintained a relationship with Mr. Kelly for the next 20 years, would you have? Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, asked her. Susan replied that their family didn't have any other income, but she agreed that they owned a shoe store from 2001 to 2010. Prosecutors also introduced testimony from Lisa Van Allen, Charles Freeman, and Keith Morrell.
Lisa Van Allen is a former girlfriend of R. Kelly's. She's a longtime accuser of his, and she was very prominently featured on Surviving R. Kelly. Charles Freeman is a guy who did merchandising for R. Kelly and others back in the day. he gave very colorful testimony about supposedly being hired to hunt down videotapes for R. Kelly. Remember, we talked about this effort to track down the tapes.
Lisa Van Allen testified first. She was newly 18 when she started a relationship with Kelly. She told the jury that sometimes their sexual relationship would include others, including someone Kelly had told her was a 16-year-old neighbor. Kelly would videotape them. One day, she said she came across videotapes of Kelly having sex with various people. One of them was her, Kelly, and the neighbor, who she said she later found out was younger than she had been told. She testified that she didn't want Kelly to be able to watch the video and that she didn't want it either.
Lisa Van Allen claimed that she found a tape that featured, there were 2 sex scenes involving Jane and a third involving her, Van Allen, Jane, and R. Kelly, and that she stole that tape and sent it to her friend Keith Morrell, who lived in Kansas City. And from there was a story about how this tape, how Lisa later found out that the tape could be for sale and she wanted to get it back. And so she called R. Kelly because she thought R. Kelly could get it back because he had the power to do so. And how R. Kelly gave her offered her $250,000, I think it was, to get the tape back by whatever means necessary.
She testified that Daryl McDavid told her they should have killed her from the beginning. Other efforts to track down tapes weren't cursory operations. Charles Freeman helped to contextualize it for the jury, speaking for the prosecution.
And here's a guy who he claimed that he was, I believe he said that he originally got a phone call from R. Kelly, and then he met with Daryl McDavid and a private investigator named Jack Palladino.
He told the jury that he was hired by Daryl McDavid and Jack Palladino in 2001 to track down another videotape for Kelly. He signed a contract for $100,000 plus $40,000 in expenses.
He tells this story about going to this home outside Atlanta, pounding on the door saying, this woman answers the door and he says, "Give me the MF tapes that you stole from R. Kelly." And then he bursts in there and the tape he's looking for is sticking out of a VCR and he just grabs it. And then he goes and watches it and realizes that it's a sex tape involving R. Kelly and a female who claims that she's 14 years old.
Freeman said he took precautions immediately.
He tells the jury the first thing he does is make copies of it so that because he doesn't trust the people who are hiring him to track down these tapes. So he gives this very colorful testimony about trying to track down these tapes, haggling with McDavid and Palladino for money. He wanted $1 million. They said they weren't going to give him that much.
As for why he didn't go to the police, Freeman said he knew the police weren't going to pay him $1 million. The prosecution then brought on witnesses to prove the 3 counts of enticement.
One alleged that he enticed Jane into criminal sexual activity, and the other alleged that he enticed victims named Pauline and Mia into criminal sexual activity.
Pauline was a friend of Jane's. Their time with R. Kelly overlapped. Pauline told the jury a troubling story.
Pauline was over at R. Kelly's house or studio with Jane. She discovered Jane naked with R. Kelly, and that's when R. Kelly kind of began his grooming and eventual sexual abuse of Pauline. And Mia, she testified that she met R. Kelly at a mall in Atlanta.
Mia testified that when she went to get his autograph, she got a phone number as well.
She said Kelly arranged for her to travel to see a concert in Minneapolis that he did. And after the concert, she said he came to her hotel room, abused her, and just left.
Mia also outlined another incident.
She also spent a summer with family in Chicago where she said she visited R. Kelly's studio and was abused by him there as well.
In all, 4 women took the stand to testify that R. Kelly had abused them when they were minors. With all the information available to the public by the time Kelly went to trial in Illinois, one would imagine the prosecution's case would be very strong. So how did R. Kelly's defense present their case?
They did it by taking the testimony of Lisa Van Allen and Chuck Freeman and Keith Morrell and pointing out inconsistency after inconsistency after inconsistency in these stories.
The defense had a point. The stories were problematic. John noticed it too.
I remember listening to Chuck Freeman's testimony and trying to keep the timeline straight and consider how it would line up with other evidence in the case. You know, granted that I think at that point there was still more to come, but there had been plenty in court filings, so we knew what to expect. And a lot of it really did not line up.
R. Kelly's co-defendant, Daryl McDavid, also took the stand for the defense.
But also Daryl McDavid took the stand. He spent more than 2 days testifying and telling his version of events.
McDavid testified that he evolved from R. Kelly's accountant and then into his business manager, someone not only in charge of Kelly's finances, but also with keeping him happy. McDavid said that R. Kelly flew a lot of women to meet him in hotels, but that they were all adults. Further, he told the jury that he believed all the accusations against Kelly were cookie-cutter cases, all modeled after the same lawsuit filed and settled in 1996. McDavid said he asked Kelly if Jane's claims were true, and that Kelly angrily denied it. And because Jane's family also denied the allegations, McDavid said he believed him. By early September, the trial began to veer towards its end.
But when it finally came time for closing arguments, one thing that jumped out at me was how little a defense R. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, gave to the first 3 counts in the indictment.
Those counts were the most serious against R. Kelly, relating to the videos with Jane. She questioned whether the tapes actually crossed state lines, which was a reason why the case fell into federal jurisdiction in the first place. There was also the question of whether or not Kelly intended to produce child sex abuse materials when he made these videos. Where Kelly's defense excelled, according to John, however, was in refuting testimony about the alleged wide-ranging effort to collect videos that R. Kelly had filmed.
In summary, the defense attorneys for Daryl McDavid, Milton Brown, and R. Kelly, they tore apart this evidence of the conspiracy, and they did it successfully.
The jury acquitted Kelly and his co-defendants of those counts relating to conspiracy. But what about the other, more serious charges against Kelly?
R. Kelly was convicted on the 3 counts of production of child pornography involving Jane, as well as 3 counts of enticement of a minor into criminal sexual activity. One of those dealt with Jane. Other 2 dealt with 2 other victims, Mia and Pauline.
It was a victory for the prosecution. As for sentencing, that has yet to happen. The Illinois federal conviction could potentially triple the 30-year sentence that he received in his New York federal trial.
And I believe the result of that is that he faces at sentencing anywhere from like 10 to 90 years in prison. And it all just depends on how the judge decides he wants to structure the sentence. But then it's going to be kind of a complicated issue when we get to sentencing, because the real question I think that people are going to be watching for is not so much his sentence in Chicago, but will it add time to the sentence he's already serving?
Answers to that big question await R. Kelly.
He's already serving a 30-year sentence in New York, likely to keep him in prison until his late 70s. So now, will the judge, whatever sentence he gives to him in Chicago, is that a sentence that Kelly will he be able to serve those concurrently or simultaneously, meaning, it might not effectively add any time at all, or will he do one on top of the other, and R. Kelly doesn't get to start serving the second sentence till he's finished with the first sentence? I think that's going to be the bigger question at sentencing.
Sentencing is set for February 23rd, 2023.
I've heard from some who think this case itself was overkill. You know, he'd already been sentenced once. Why we have to do this again? But of course, you have a case that needs to be resolved. This was a trial that sought vindication for additional victims who deserve just as much vindication as the victims in New York do.
John highlighted Jane's story.
Jane, her history here goes way back, about 25 years here. She, according to the testimony in this trial, she asked R. Kelly to be her godfather, and then he sexually abused her, and then and put it on tape, and on what became a notorious videotape that people have talked about and frankly joked about for years.
We'll keep track of R. Kelly's sentencing hearing, as well as the state charges he is set to face, not only in Illinois, but also now in Minnesota, and talk with John again to get updates when all that happens. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram at Court Junkie, on Twitter at Court Junkie Pod, or you can email me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and in the 1990s,
All right. So that was a breakdown from I put the link in the chat, the podcast to the podcast, okay? And you guys can follow them. And you know, when I guess sentencing comes and stuff like that, she'll be keeping up with what's going on. So I think she was a cool commentator and broke it down pretty well. And thank you, John Seidel, for that. I follow him on Twitter. You can too if you have Twitter. You can follow him at John Seidel. And that is the end of this live. So, guys, let me know what you think for those that are on the replay. Let me know your comments in the comment section about stands and what do you think about the stands and the types of examples. Show me some examples in the comment section on the types of things that stands have done in this R. Kelly sector. You know, when it comes to Kel's Nation and Kel Steppers and all these other free R. Kelly people. So, the stands will remain the fans. Hashtag stands. Okay. You're welcome, guys. And guys, just a reminder, R. Kelly sentencing for the Northern District of Illinois is February 23rd of 2023. Next to come up is Don Russell. We really have to talk about Don Russell. So that will be my next live, guys. I will be filling you in on Mr. Don the Con. Yeah, he's another one. So you're very welcome, Truth Strong. You're very welcome, guys. And thank you for coming. As always, y'all already know, please make sure that you hit that like button before you leave from here. Okay? Gracias very mucho, darling. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Thank you. And if you would like to join my memberships only, it's $1.99 a month. You get to put some cute emojis in the chat. And you get to see exclusive content as I put exclusive content in my members only. All right. And you will be helping a sister out, okay, with taking care of this channel. Yes, sir. Gracias very mucho. And make sure if you're going to leave your comments, please leave your comments in the section of this video. Please make sure they're respectful, okay? And they won't get deleted because I got bouncers in the chat and I got bouncers outside of the chat, okay? And they will bounce your comments out of here. And before we go, I just got to do one thing for you guys
For all those people out there that are stans, y'all need to get it together. And your girl Diva Divine Light is out. Peace.